So in today's episode, we're going to be talking about camcorders and which one will be best for shooting your kid's soccer game. Stay right there. You're going to want to see this. Hi, I'm Mike Turner, your friendly filmmaker. In today's episode, we're going to answer a viewer's question. And this one is coming from, let me see here, I have it up on my screen. This one is coming from Ink Contracting, so thank you for your question. And he was asking, would you suggest another camera for shooting my kid's soccer game? So basically he was watching an old video I did for the Sony CX900. I made that review maybe like 3 years ago or something. And the CX900 is a camcorder. And he's wondering if there's a different camcorder that I could recommend over the CX900. And yes, there is. So let's get into it. So I'm going to start with the Canon R800, okay? Now the Canon R800 is about $250 new, and I'm sure if you're buying it used off some place like eBay or even Amazon, you could probably get it a lot cheaper. But that is going to shoot 1080 up to 60 frames per second. Now, the only thing with this camera that I'm not in love with, and I'm also going to talk about it with the next camera as well, is it's using a 1/4 inch sensor, around a 1/4 inch size. And what that means is it's a very small sensor that's capturing that light, capturing the image that the camera produces. And when you have a small image sensor, when you get into low light situations, it's not going to look that great. But you're using it for a soccer game, so you're probably going to be outdoors, so you might be good with this camera. And I was reading the reviews on Amazon, on B&H, and it gets really, really good reviews. Now, moving on, if you're into Sony, there's the Sony CX440. And that camera is just a little bit more expensive. It's around the same price, $268. The sensor's even slightly smaller at 1/5 of an inch. So there is that. But also, like the R800, which I forgot to mention, it has a very long zoom. So you have 32 times zoom on the R800. You have 30 on this model, on the CX440, which is a ton of zoom. So if you need to zoom on your child and you're in the bleachers, you can zoom right into the pimple on his nose if you want to. That's a lot of zoom. And you also got to keep in mind, the nice thing about camcorders is both of these camcorders have image stabilization built in. So, you know, if you're hand holding, it's going to take all that wobble out of the shot. If you have not done so already, please make sure you subscribe to the channel and click the bell for notifications. Go ahead and like the video if you like the content you're seeing, and that will help my channel tremendously. This one can also do 1080-60, just like the R800. And it does have some additional features that you may not need. It has Wi-Fi, NFC. So, you can send your pictures and your video to your phone. I think you can control the camera from your phone with the Sony version. So just some additional features in that as well. But again, they both have a smaller sensor. So when you're going indoors, it's not the greatest light. It might not work that well. And you can actually see that in the reviews that have been written on these cameras. So just keep that in mind. Now, moving forward here, I'm going to get into 2 more camcorders that have slightly bigger sensors, so they're going to be a little better in low light. And then after these 2, I'm going to go into a totally different camera, just kind of throwing a zinger for you, but I just had to mention it. But let's get into the next camcorder. We're going to start with the Panasonic V7070. So this one is definitely more money. This one brand new is around $600. So now you're going from like $250 all the way to $600. So this is a steady price increase, but you're getting that bigger sensor, better image quality, better low light performance. The zoom now is not as much. This is a 20 times zoom, but that is still plenty. 20 times zoom is a lot. It seems to only record in 60 frames per second, which, you know, for family videos is probably not a big deal. I'm used to cameras that give me the option to shoot in 24, 30, or 60, and sometimes 120. So that kind of threw me off a bit. It only shoots in 60 frames per second and then has some other high speed 120 frames per second mode. But I don't think you're really just shooting in 120 frames per second. It's doing some stuff in the camera to get it there. So there's that about the camera. So if that matters to you, just know that you don't have all the standard shooting modes that you normally have in most cameras. Keep in mind too, with all of these cameras, you can still take pictures. With this one, you can take a 25 megapixel picture. That's a lot of megapixels. So that's pretty impressive. So you can still take pictures with it if you need to snap a picture. Probably not going to be as nice as a full-fledged camera, but I'm sure it's going to be decent. I have an old camcorder that can also take pictures. I think it was like a 2 megapixel or 8 megapixel picture. And there are pictures that I've taken with that camcorder on vacation that I still have. I mean, it's fine. I mean, it works. So keep that in mind. 25 megapixels. With the Sony, it was 9 megapixels. And with the R800, the Canon, it was actually 2 megapixels. So kind of small. That's not really a great picture. That would be something that's good for like maybe your social media, a website or something, but not something you're going to blow up and put on a wall. Also, this has image stabilization, just like the other two cameras. And again, this camera also got very good reviews as well. On I think I was on B&H and it got like 4.5 stars. I don't remember if that was from B&H or Amazon, but out of 84 reviews, it was at 4.5 stars. People also use this camera for church services, which is saying a lot. So you have professionals that are using this particular camera to film church services and, you know, using that to do their live streaming and all that type of stuff. And saying that the image quality is good and it hangs with a lot of their professional cameras. So that's saying a lot and probably why the price tag is a bit more. So the next camera is the Panasonic V800, which is pretty much just an upgrade from the 770. The only reason I'm mentioning it because it's very similar camera, but it's the same price. So I mean, you know, I would probably go for the newer one than the older one. Still has that half-inch sensor. It has a little more zoom. It's 24 times zoom as opposed to 20. Still does the 1080-60 and has that like maybe mysterious extra super slow mode in it. Takes 24 megapixel pictures as opposed to 25 megapixel. You're still getting about an hour and a half battery life. You still have the image stabilization in it. Both of these cameras, the Panasonic 770 and the 800, have mic jacks in them, which for you is probably not going to matter if you're just filming your kids' soccer games. But I don't know, if you decide to use the camera for something else, you have a mic jack, you could plug a mic into it and get some really good sound. Just something to mention, might not be a big deal. And I do believe the upgraded version, this V800, also has a headphone jack for monitoring your audio. And without further ado, here is number 5, which happens to be almost number 1 to me. The FZ300, which is a Panasonic camera that is a bridge camera. It's almost like a step beneath going into an interchangeable lens camera, because it really has a lot of features like an interchangeable lens camera, but it doesn't have the interchangeable lenses. And it also has a ton of video features in it too. So it's not just a stills camera, it does a lot of video features. And this FZ300 can shoot in 4K at 30 and 24 frames per second, which, you know, for soccer games and stuff really doesn't matter. But if you're trying to do some additional things with this camera, this is probably the best value at $397 brand new. It's you know, one of the lower price cameras on this list and does way more than any of them. You know, it has the Wi-Fi features, it has the 5-axis image stabilization, it has a 24 times zoom, it's also weather resistant, it does a lot, and it's a half-inch sensor. So, you know, it's a little bit bigger than something like the R800 in terms of image quality, or a little better in terms of image quality. So now just keep in mind that with this particular camera, there will be record limits. So you're gonna have that 30-minute record limit that you won't have on any of the camcorders that I mentioned. However, you can just simply hit record again to restart. And it's really a good camera. And my son is up and he
down.
Say hello. Yeah. Oh, there, boy. He wants me to fix his transformer, so. The video's over. because I got to go do this. So can you wait for 2 seconds? There you go. So basically, in my opinion, the FZ300 is kind of the best value on this list, but it's not really a camcorder. All the other ones are camcorders. They're going to shoot video better because of the way you hold them, the ergonomics, you know, the zoom can there's a power zoom and all that. You know, even the FZ300 though has a power zoom, but it's just, they're going to be easier to hold. You open them, you hit record, you don't have to think too much. There's not a bunch of manual modes in them. This FZ300 has manual modes. It's going to be a more complicated camera if you want it to be, because it also has auto modes in it too. For everybody else out there who still owns a consumer camcorder, you know, comment down below. What camcorder are you using? What do you think would be good for our friend here to be using for his kids' soccer games? And how are you using yours? You know, I'm curious. Do we have people that are using camcorders for the professional work, filming recitals maybe, sporting events? I would love to hear what you're using. And of course, if you haven't subscribed, make sure you go ahead and subscribe to my channel right now, because I'm doing this all the time. I'm always answering your questions. I love answering questions like this. So keep them coming. Any good questions, put them down in the comments. Check the descriptions for any of the gear that I'm talking about. You'll find links to all of that gear there. Also, there'll be an affiliate link down there for Soundstripe. Soundstripe.com is what I use to put the music on my videos for YouTube and for all my weddings as well. Great music, great selection, great price, and you get a discount if you use the link down below. Also down below, there'll be a donation link if you want to leave a donation to the channel, and there will be a couple of books that I wrote years ago. If you're into fictional books that are drama or suspense, there's a couple down there. They're very short. They're very, very short. You know what I'm saying? I'm working on a novel right now. I'll get it done eventually, okay? Anyway, I'm Mike Turner. Thanks for watching, and I guess I'll see you soon.